Then the river comes the best card in the deck. I make a full house and he leads out for $225. I'm all in. What's up, everybody? We're at Hollywood, Florida, on my way to the casino today. This is my beautiful car. What's up, everybody? We're back at Hard Rock Hollywood. We lost some money yesterday at this casino, but the game seemed to be great, and hopefully we can get it back today. This is the most beautiful casino I have visited, at least for now. Hard Rock has a rock and roll vibe, and if you haven't visited a Hard Rock casino just yet, I recommend you doing it. Welcome to the Poker Profit channel, the first poker vlog created to help you becoming a better poker player. I buy in for 500, first hand I get pocket 10s, one limper before me, I raise to 30, middle position calls, big blind calls as well, 3 players see the flop. The flop comes Jack, 6, deuce with 2 hearts. I don't have the 10 of hearts. It checks to me. Most of the times I'm gonna still be winning here, so I'm gonna bet to protect my equity. I bet $40, middle position calls, big blind folds. The turn is a 9 of diamonds. It's a pretty safe card. I decide to check and control the pot. He bets 90, pretty big bet. He could have some combinations of flush draws in his range. I don't think I can fold just yet for this bet, so I decide to call. The river comes a very bad card, a ace of hearts. I check, he checks back, I show the 10s and he shows king jack offsuit. In the hand right next to it, I get the exact same combination of hand, 10 of diamonds and 10 of spades. That's really rare. I'm in the under the gun +1, one limper before me, I raise to 30 again, only the limper calls in the under the gun. The flop comes queen 5 deuce, he checks to me. Very similar situation as the last hand, so I'm gonna bet here to protect my equity. I bet 25, he calls. The turn is a king of diamonds, I have the 10 of diamonds. He checks to me, and I believe here the best option is to check. The river comes a 3 of spades, a blank. He checks, I check back, he shows ace high, I show the 10s and it's good. Next hand I have ace 10 offsuit, one limper before me. I'm in the low jack, I decide to raise to 25 in position. The limper calls, we're heads up. The flop comes ace 6, rainbow. I will rarely be losing here, so my goal is to extract maximum value. He checks to me, I bet small, I bet $20 and he calls. The turn is a queen of clubs. He checks again, hopefully he has a piece of this board. I bet 35, he calls again. The river comes a 10, I make a full house. He checks to me again, and I decide to bet 110, 2/3 of the pot. He thinks for a while, but unfortunately decides to fold. Okay, I change seat, and before we go through this pocket aces hand, I believe there's something that I miss poker vloggers talking about it, which is how hard it is to record hands at some casinos, and Hard Rock is one of them. I had many problems to record my hands inside Hard Rock, and that's really unfortunate because I believe the episodes that I do here can bring many players to the game and to the casinos. And honestly, I have great things to say about Hard Rock, and in the end, 90% of the times the people who complain about me recording are not the players, but the floors or someone from the staff, and I'm really not here to bother anyone. I just want to record my hands and make my vlogs, and hopefully the casinos start allowing poker vloggers to record their hands, because I believe that's great for the live poker environment. Under the gun +1 limps, I raise to 25, button and small blind call, 3 players see the flop. The flop comes Jack 3 with 2 spades, I have the ace of spades, small blind checks, I bet 45, only the button calls. The turn is a 5 of hearts, I'm gonna keep betting here, the question is how much. I bet 125, targeting the hands that he has a jack on it, and I don't want to bet so small because he might have some flush draws in his range, so I don't want to make such a good price for him to call in position. He folds. Next hand I'm in the small blind with 10 jack suited, there's one limper in the middle position, button raises to 20. How much do you play, please?
He's playing 200, he's playing 600.
And here in the small blind, most of the times, if I decide to play this hand, I will choose to be the aggressor. Cause usually being passive on the small blind is not such a good idea. You're playing out of position against everybody and most of the times you're gonna miss the flop. So here I decide to take the aggressive line and 3-bet to $70. This is not such a comfortable spot for me here. I'm just risking $70 to get a $32 pot clean. But I believe even if he calls and I miss the flop, I still can be aggressive post flop and win the hand. So overall, that's what I think is the best line here. Everybody folds and I take it down.
What is that?
That is gonna be a call. So it's $5.
20.
Next hand I have Queen Jack suited in the hijack. I got one limper before me. I raise to 20 in position. Cutoff calls. Big blind and the limper also call. So 4 players see the flop. The flop comes king, 4, 5 with 2 spades and 1 diamond. They check to me and here I have all the best kings in my range. So even though I don't love c-betting against 3 players without a hand, I believe this is a good one to try it. And more important than that, if I bet this flop, I have to be willing to bet in most of the turns as well. Because I am able to represent all the best kings and aces here. I block king, queen and king jack in their ranges. And there are also some diamonds and some tens that would give me more strength to keep betting. So I c-bet 45 and everybody folds. Winning 540 for now. Next hand I get ace 10 suited. I straddle in the cutoff because I have the option of posting $7 or straddling for $10. So this is why I straddle. Button and big blind calls the 10. I raise to 55. They both call. 3 players see the flop. The flop comes king, 10, 8 with 2 clubs and 1 diamond. That's a decent flop for me. Big blind leads out to $75. I call. Button calls as well. The turn is a great one. A queen of diamonds. She checks to me. I decide to check back. Button checks as well. The river is a 3 of clubs. I miss. We all check again. And she shows 9-6 of clubs. Calling $55 pre-flop. Hitting a gut shot and a flush draw. And hitting it. Man, I gotta say, hard rock tables are beautiful. Next hand I have ace deuce suited from the low jack. One limper before me as usual. I raise to 25. Only the hijack calls. We're heads up. The flop comes ace 9 3 rainbow. I'm gonna c-bet here. I c-bet to 30. He calls. The turn is a 4. I check now to control the pot and he checks back. River is a king. Flush draw gets there. I check. He bets 30 and of course I'm gonna call here. And he shows ace 10 of spades, having a better ace than I do. Next hand I have ace 4 suited. Hijack raises to 15 and here I will usually play this hand by 3-betting. But because he doesn't have such a big stack and he wasn't playing so many hands, I decided to just call and play in position. Small blind and big blind calls as well. So 4 players see the flop. The flop comes ace 7 4. I make 2 pair. They all check to me. I bet 35. Small blind calls. The turn is a jack. He checks to me again. Now I bet 75. He calls. And now I have to assume he has something here because there are no flush draws in the board and he called from the small blind. Hopefully he will have a ace-axe combination here. But then the river comes a horrible one because now any ace-axe hand I'm either beat or chopping. I check and he checks back.
What a horrible card, man.
Who first?
Are you show first?
No, you show first. That's alright.
He shows king jack of spades and I win the hand, winning $464. Next hand I get king 6 suited from the button. Under the gun limps is the same woman that called that $60 with 9-6 suited. I believe her range is wide and I want to play against her in position. So I raise to 25. Big blind and under the gun calls. The flop comes king 6 deuce with 2 spades. I make top 2 pair. That's a great spot. They check to me and I c-bet to 35. Only the big blind calls. The turn comes a 4 of hearts. He checks again and I bet 65 now. He calls. Then the river comes the best card in the deck. I make a full house. And as this situation couldn't get better, he leads out for $225. I have 730 behind. I'm just gonna take my time here and decide to go all in. That's what I do.
I'm all in.
All in.
And unfortunately he folds and later on he said he had pocket nines. Next hand I have ace jack from the under the gun +1. Under the gun raises to 25. If I decide to play this hand, I'm not gonna just call here, I'm gonna 3-bet. So I'm either 3-betting or folding here. I decide the first option. I 3-bet to 80. Everybody else folds and he calls. We're playing heads up. The flop comes ace, 10, 8 with 2 spades. He checks to me. I c-bet to 60 and he calls. The turn is a 9 of hearts. He checks, and here I believe is a good spot to check back, especially because I have the ace of spades. So he has way less combos of flush draws because I'm blocking all the ace X. And I also have an open-ended with the jack. So I check back. The river is a 3 of diamonds, complete blank. He bets 75 and I call. He shows kings and my ace jack is good. I changed seats again, and the main reason why I changed seats was the same as before. People from the staff were telling me to stop recording and I was saying okay, but I was trying to do my thing and keep recording. So the first hand in this new table, I get pocket kings. I open raise to 30, one limper before me, one player calls. The flop comes 10, 7, 4 with 2 diamonds. I have the king of diamonds. I c-bet to 30, he calls. The turn comes a 3 of spades. There are 2 flush draws in the board. I bet $60 now and he folds. The hand right after this one, I have ace 10 offsuit from the low jack, button straddles to 10, 2 callers before me. I raise to 60 in position against them. Button and one of the limpers call, so 3 players see the flop. The flop comes king 7, 7, pretty dry flop. I have all the ace king, king queen and aces in my range, so I'm gonna keep betting here. I bet 65, button calls, and then the turn comes a queen of clubs, which gives me a gut shot. But more important than that, I don't believe the button has any ace king in his range, and the fact that a queen came makes the button have less combinations of king queen. So I think now it would be a good spot to put pressure on him, representing I have a big hand, and I think the best option is to keep betting. So I bet 225 now, and he folds. I change seats again. I'm still at the same table. The reason why I changed this time was to get a better table footage. I get pocket 4s in the middle position. I open raise to 25. Only the player in my left calls. The flop is a great one. Jack 9-4 with 2 hearts. I c-bet to 35. He calls. The turn comes a 10 of clubs. I'm gonna keep betting here, but I'm gonna bet bigger this time because there are a lot of open-ended and flush draws in his range, and I don't want to let him see the river cheaply. I bet 95 now, around 3/4 of the pot. He calls, and then the river comes the single worst card in the deck, the king of hearts. Flush draw gets there, a queen gets there, and I think there are many of those combinations in his range. So I decide to check, and he bets $300. Pretty tough spot for me here. What would you guys do here in my position? Would you call or would you fold? Let me know in the comment section.
Alright, man, if you're bluffing, I just can't call with that.
I decided to fold, and unfortunately we will never know what he had. Next hand I'm in the cutoff with pocket 6s, button straddles to 10, under the gun calls.
That's your stack, please.
He has like 700 in his stack. I raise to 40, only the under the gun calls. We're playing heads up. The flop comes 8, 5, 4, rainbow. He leads out to 55, I call. The turn comes a deuce of hearts. Now I have a double gutter and a pair of 6s. He bets 125, and that's a clear call here. I might be winning already with the 6s, but even if I'm not, I'm calling 125 for a pot that has 332 in position, and he still has a little more than $500 in his stack. I take a while to call, just so I don't make it so obvious. I call, and then the river comes a beautiful 3 of spades. So I get there, he checks to me. I'm hoping he has an ace here, and I want to try to extract maximum value here. I have very little combinations of 6s in my range, because I raised pre-flop, so I decided to polarize here and bet big so he thinks I might be bluffing. So I bet $400, hopefully he has an ace and calls, but that's not what happens and he folds. Next hand I get king 7 offsuit from the small blind. I complete and 5 players see the flop. The flop comes queen 3-4 rainbow. Everybody checks. Turn comes a king, and I think I made a mistake by checking here. I should lead out in this turn, but I checked. Button bets 15. I raise to $40. Only the button calls. River comes a 9 of clubs. Flush draw gets there, and here I decide to bet, and in case he raises I'm gonna fold. I bet 45. He calls. I show the king 7 and he shows 10-8 of clubs, making a flush in the river. Next hand I get queen 5 suited from the big blind. Button raises to 15, I call, we're playing heads up. The flop comes queen 8 deuce, I make top pair, I check, he bets 20. And here I believe I made a mistake again, because I should have check raised and protect my equity against overcards and flush draws. But I just called. The turn comes an ace of hearts, I check, he bets 45 now. He has many combinations of aces in his range, but I decide to call. The river comes a 9 of spades, I check, and then he bets $80. I gotta call $80 for a pot that has 287. I need to be right around 20% of the time so this call is profitable. There are some flush draws that he missed, but I really feel like I made a mistake about not check raising in that flop. So I decide to call here, and he shows ace-3 offsuit, hitting the ace in the turn and extracting maximum value. Next hand I have 7-8 suited from the cutoff, button straddles to 10, 3 callers. I decide to call from the cutoff and see a flop, but then the button raises to 85. Everybody else folds. I don't think he is that strong here, because he raised pretty big from the button. This guy was kind of tricky, but he didn't seem to be such a good player post-flop. He's the same player I folded that set before in this episode. I have to call 75 for a pot that has 132 with 7-8 suited. So I decided to call. The flop comes a great one. I make top pair. I check to him. He bets $80. And here again, I think I made a mistake of not check raising. Even though calling is not too bad, by calling I let him get too comfortable of playing in position as the aggressor of the hand and with a lot of chips behind. So here I think I should check raise, but I didn't do it and I just called. The turn comes a good one, a 10 of clubs. This 10 will not hit him that often. I check and now he bets 155. If I played by calling the flop, I still need to call here because I let his bluff continue in the hand by not check raising. So I call. The river comes a 6. I check. He checks back. I show the 7-8 and he shows king 10 offsuit, hitting his 10 in the turn. I'm glad he didn't bet in the river because depending on the size, I would call.
Well guys, end of session here. Happy with how I played. Won 599 in 8 hours and a half. This vlog will be big because there were a lot of hands, but it's gonna be worth it because there's a lot of things to be shared with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode and see you next time.
Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The mission of this channel is helping you become a better poker player. Hopefully I'm achieving that goal and see you next time.